white people were the first to formally put an end to slavery. In
The British?
1833, Britain was the
Yeah, the
first
British.
country in the history of the world to pass a Slavery Abolition Act. They were quickly followed by France, who in 1848 abolished slavery in her many colonies.
Yeah, y'all think I'm... What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel of Warren Reacts. We're going to be checking out a video with a very interesting title and perspective. So this one is titled A Short History of Slavery. I wonder if this video is actually going to be documenting the details of slavery, meaning like the fact that it's not just between black and white folks. Like slavery been here, you know what I mean? So I've learned a lot about the entire thing regarding slavery from different perspectives, and understanding that slavery is actually, or was actually, present in areas that I didn't know. For example, I'm currently living in Finland, and I had no idea that some sort of slavery took place here regarding Finland, Sweden, Russia. So we're going to be checking out this video right now, and I'll share my 2 cents and see what this video has to say. And maybe I agree, maybe I disagree. But let's get right into this video. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe. Any recommendations, feel free to leave those in the comment section down below, and I'll try to check those out for you guys at a later date. But for now, let's get right into this video, guys. So.
And now for a brief history of
what's
slavery.
up? What's up? I wasn't expecting her, but what's up?
Here's the first thing you need to know. Slavery was not invented by white people. It did not start in 1619 when the first slaves came to Jamestown.
Anybody who thinks that, education time for you, if you actually thought 1619, whatever, slavery been here. Slavery, based off of what I've read, seen, heard, slavery was literally a way for families to actually get money. Like, I could be here and I'm a father, I'm a dad, I got a boy, you know, and he works really hard. I can ship him out just because I need some money to provide for the family. Like, literally, that's really what things were like back in the day. And slavery with this whole white black thing is just recent. Like, it's literally just recent. And yeah, tribes and those stuff were what it was back then, bro.
It existed before then. It did not start in 1492 when Columbus discovered the New World. In fact, when the intrepid explorer landed in the Bahamas, the native Taino tribe hoped that he would help them defeat their aggressive neighbors, the Caribs. The Caribs enslaved the Taino and, on occasion, served them for dinner. Slavery existed in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. The word slave actually comes from the Slavs of Eastern Europe. Millions of them, all white by the way, were captured and enslaved by Muslims in the 9th century and later by the Ottoman Turks. Slavery existed when the Roman Empire controlled the Mediterranean and most of Europe from the 1st through the 5th centuries. Slavery existed when Alexander the Great conquered Persia in the 4th century BC. It was so common that Aristotle simply considered it natural.
Yeah.
The slave master model was just how the world operated in the great philosopher's day.
Exactly.
Slavery existed during the time of the ancient Egyptians 5,000 years ago.
Exactly. That's what people don't get. Like, I'm not gonna, don't get me wrong when I say this, okay? Slavery is not as bad as people make it to seem when you think about slavery without racism. Slavery with racism is 10 times worse than slavery itself, because slavery with racism is simply just people allowing you, who are the slave, to think that you are less than them. Slavery in itself is literally them being dependent on you. But because they have the resources that you or your family needs, that's where it seems as if they actually are the ones that you depend on. But they depend on you. But it's all psychology. But when slavery took a real rough turn mentally was when, the whole racism, and hence the reason why everybody just thinks this is where slavery started from. It ain't. Slavery been here. Right. And it's what kings use to build empires. It's like having a force over people and allowing them to work for little or no pay and simply building your empires. All of these empires that you've read about, they were likely all built through slavery. That's why you have kings, if you know what I mean.
As far back as we can go in human history, we find slavery.
That's right.
As renowned historian John Steele Gordon notes from time immemorial, slaves were a major item of commerce. As much as a third of the population of the ancient world was enslaved. Here's the second thing you need to know. White people were the first to formally put an end to slavery. In 1833, Britain was the first country in the history of the world to pass a Slavery Abolition Act. They were quickly followed by France, who in 1848 abolished slavery in her many colonies.
Yeah, y'all think I'm joking out here. I told y'all I done put in a little bit of work, you hear me? Like, I'm not trying to say I know everything regarding slavery or whatever, but I do this Foreign Reacts, man, to learn stuff. Like, you know, whatever seeming to be foreign to me that I don't know about, I do it so I can actually learn. It's not just to just react, it's actually to learn. And, you know, it helps a lot. And this is a beautiful video. I actually can co-sign with it. And, you know.
Then, of course, came the 13th Amendment in the United States Constitution. After centuries of human slavery, white men led the world in putting an end to the abhorrent practice. That includes the 300,000 Union soldiers, overwhelmingly white, who died during the Civil War. Now, am I saying that this makes white people better than anyone else?
Nah.
Of course not. My purpose here is to simply tell the truth, and the truth is that human history is complicated. No one, regardless of skin color, stands guiltless. Yet today we are never told to consider the murderous Persian Empire or the cannibalism of indigenous tribes of North and South America or the heinous actions under the imperialistic Muslim, Chinese, Mongol, or Japanese empires, to name just a few. Instead, we're told that slavery is a white phenomenon. And like all persistent lies, this lie spawns a bunch of other lies. On social media, I come across extraordinary depictions about how Africans lived like pharaohs before Europeans came and laid waste to their paradise.
First of all, like I said earlier on in this video, the reason why there were a possibility of Africans living, do you know who Mansa Musa, whatever, the African guy who's the richest man supposedly who ever lived, Mansa Musa, that guy, do you know why he was so rich? People don't understand that majority of the people who were kings and queens back then, their reason for being kings and queens is because the people around them suffered for them to be where they are. So if you want to brag how African kings were this and kings were that, blah, 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 they were the same ones trading your ass. Literally. Believe that.
I wish any of this were true, but it's not. It's a fantasy. The truth is that Africans were sold into slavery by other black Africans, and in many cases, sold for items as trivial as gin and mirrors. Whites didn't go into the interior and round up the natives. They waited on the coast for their black partners to bring them black bodies. The stark reality.
And if you have any form of common sense, like I'm not disrespecting, but if you have any form of common sense, think about slavery and think about how large Africa is and think about it. Like, we didn't have nuclear stuff back then, obviously. We don't have all that fancy military stuff right now that we have. If it was so that the white folks invaded in Africa and took Africans back to, you know, America and to the, you know, Europe and stuff like that, wouldn't there be like a small common sense that goes like, how did it happen so freely? It doesn't make sense to you. That's what I'm trying to say to you guys. Like, people did this to their own family because they wanted something. So they trade you up, right? And give you up because they're like, he's not worth much. Here you go, have him. That's really how this thing happened. And then it just gets more and more and more and more. Slave trade, if you ever heard about it, that's really what it is. So when you think about it genuinely and not just off race crap, you actually realize that, wait a minute, there was not I don't know about a huge fight that happened in history regarding all this slave trade from Africa to the United States or wherever in the world you're talking about. And then that would give you a little clue like, wait a minute. If there was not a large fight, there must have been a here you go situation, if you get what I mean.
Is that our lives had very little value to our ancestors. Here's the third thing you need to know. If you think slavery is a relic of the past, you're wrong. There are some 700,000 slaves in Africa today, right now. That's the lowest estimate that I could find. Other sources say there are many more. For context, that's almost twice as many slaves as were ever brought to the United States. Child soldiers, human trafficking, forced labor, these are the conditions that currently exist within the same sub-Saharan region where the transatlantic slave trade originated. African bodies are being sold today like they were sold then, and no, they are not being purchased by any country of white men. In fact, slavery, by any traditional definition, is exclusively practiced today within non-white countries. But we hear almost nothing about that. Just like we hear nothing about how slavery was universal until good people in Europe and America ended it 2 centuries ago. Why? Because our so-called leaders, black and white, wouldn't profit from it. Black victimhood is nothing if not profitable. It elects politicians and funds racial grievance groups. And if Black Americans began to view themselves as partners in the American dream, if we embraced the patriotic spirit that holds all men are created equal, the patriotic spirit that is our real heritage, then the race hustlers would soon be out of business. And who wants that? I'm Candace Owens, author of Blackout for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video.
That was crazy. Hey man, a lot of facts were spit in this video, and I totally agree with everything that Candice actually said. It's really rare when you actually get some facts in your brain this early in the morning, you know, and it's rather sad that a lot of people overlook this situation and act as if, you know, like there's no other parts to the story. Like everybody, we just like to start and end right here in the recent history. We don't like to get the entire story. Like I never knew about this whole situation where slavery was actually involved in Europe. Slavic, like I didn't know these things, right? And that's because people don't necessarily want you to know these things. They just want you to think you're the victim. Like every day you wake up in the morning and you're just thinking that you're the victim, right? Slavery and racism is not the same thing. Yes, in modern slavery, not modern because it's not even existing anymore, but in recent slavery, like, you know, with America, for example, back then, those type of slavery, yes, racism was involved in it, right? However, slavery itself existed way before all of this happened, and it's unfortunate it's still happening right now, and I had no idea that. But that's sad, and I hope, you know, for change one day, that's for sure. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. This is the end of the video, and I'm out of here. Peace. Wow.